Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and that technicolor rainbow in between, welcome to number 7 of my deck build and strategy guides, this time featuring the demonic thespians of the underworld, one of them, the infamous Phantom Troupe, not that one, the Abyss Actors. Tonight, I'll be taking you backstage for a behind-the-scenes look at how these dedicated dolls and monsters work hard to bring their various shows to life, as well as introduce you to the cast and crew, and how they each contribute to the troupe's continued success, even if they are a bit low profile at the moment. Just like the Fright Furs and Super Heavy Samurai before them, the Abyss Actors debuted in the Arc 5 anime, used by a member of the Lancers, Silvio Sawatari. And like several of the decks from the protagonists of the Standard Dimension, now the Pendulum Dimension, dual-tainting is the name of their game, meaning they utilize their numerous pendulum effects to keep their opponents guessing. Unlike most other decks that merely use pendulum monsters as support, the main deck monsters are all 100% pendulum, with their scales ranging from 0 to 9, while their extra deck consists of 2 link monsters. Additionally, their names indicate their roles in the production, whether on stage or off. They also share a unique crest, visible on their bodies, costumes, and their books. With so many different monster and pendulum effects to weave through, I think it's no surprise that this build uses the complete 60 card count. When people ask how my deck can do so much when their own builds can't, the common problem that I find is that they fall victim to the 40 card build trap. I always give this simple reply: you can't put on a good show when half the cast is missing. Alright, now that the formalities are out of the way, let's get this tour off the ground, shall we? The setting of our tour is none other than this delightful looking building, their field spell, the Abyss Playhouse Fantastic Theater. Its first effect lets you reveal an actor and a script in your hand, allowing you to add a different script to your hand from the deck. Its second effect, and one of the best in the deck, changes the first effect activated by your opponent's monster, or rather the first one that resolves. Keep it at 3. Now it's time to travel backstage and introduce you to the fantastic cast and crew that brings these shows to life. To keep things interesting, I'll start by introducing them from the lowest ranking members and work my way up to the highest ranking. Starting with their lowest ranking members, we have the Scale 3 Abyss Actor Extras, who mostly take up space in the background. Fittingly, both their pendulum and monster effects reflect this. When upstage, they can special summon themselves downstage so long as your opponent controls a monster. And once they're downstage, they contribute themselves to place a newer, more important actor upstage. Also ranking low on the totem pole is the big man who keeps the audience laughing, the Scale 8 Abyss Actor Funky Comedian. When he's upstage, his effect lets him tribute another actor you have downstage before targeting a different one to give it a boost in its attack points equal to the attributed actors. His second monster effect is similar, whereas his first effect boosts his own attack points when he's summoned, the value being based on the number of actors on stage. He can grant his extra attack points to another actor you control. Still, he'll be rendered useless for the rest of the turn. Next, we have the trusty support actor who's almost always on standby, the Scale 8 Abyss Actor Trendy Understudy. Because of his support role, when he's upstage, he can use his effect to add a level 1 or 8 actor to your hand from the extra deck. Similarly, if he's downstage, he can be tributed to special summon either of the previous mentioned monsters from either the hand or the extra deck, but only if your pendulum zones are full. The next cast member's role in the show is to keep the scene from getting too intense, using jokes and silly antics, or just annoy everyone. The Scale 8 Abyss Actor Comic Relief. That brief moment of reprieve is the core of his effects. Upstage, he can target a non-link actor and an opponent's monster to make them switch sides before fleeing the scene. When downstage, as expected of someone who's probably used to slapstick, he's durable enough to stop you from taking battle damage when he battles. And during the standby phase, he'll automatically switch sides before accidentally destroying a step script card that his opponent controls. The humor in that will become clear later. The following monsters are the mid-ranking members of the troupe, who work to support the high-ranking actors. The first one is the actor who always opens the show, the Scale 7 Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser. As the first act of the evening, he can special summon himself from upstage if there are no other actors downstage. And if he's the only one downstage, he'll gain an extra boost in his attack points. He can also send a script from the deck to the graveyard to add an actor from your extra deck to your hand. The following member doesn't spend much time on stage, as she's in charge of writing the scripts and music for the show, the Scale 8 Abyss Actor Liberty Dramatist. When she's upstage, you can discard a card to let her switch sides. From there, she'll then set one of 3 script spells of your choice from your deck to your field, which will then be destroyed during the end phase. If she herself is destroyed, you can shuffle a script from the graveyard back into the deck. Keep her at 3. Going back to the main cast, we have the youngest member of the troupe, the Scale 9 Abyss Actor Twinkle Littlestar. Being one of the most resilient and fiercest members despite her small stature, she's one of the essential cast members. When upstage, she can grant an actor downstage the ability to make 3 attacks on monsters that turn, but also prevents any other actors from attacking for the rest of the turn too. When downstage, she can take advantage of her resilience to attack monsters 3 times without having to worry about falling in battle. Keep her at 3. The newest member of the troupe, who's more than eager to prove his worth, is none other than the Scale 2 Abyss Actor Sassy Rookie. As a result, he tends to play the sidekick or henchman in whatever show he's a part of. When upstage, he prevents the downstage actors from being destroyed by battle or card effects by sacrificing himself. When downstage, however, he selfishly uses that same resilience to stop only himself from being destroyed once per turn. Guess he's not above taking the spotlight when it suits him. However, if he's destroyed while downstage, he'll call one of his fellow mid to low ranking cast members on stage to take his place. Keep him at 3. Next up is a crowd favorite who's stolen the hearts of many female theatergoers, the Western themed anti-hero, the Scale 2 Abyss Actor Wild Hope. When he's upstage, he can change the scale of another upstage actor to 9. When downstage, he can boost his attack based on how many different actors he shares the stage with. If he's destroyed, you can add another Abyss Actor card to your hand, not counting himself obviously. Keep him at 3. The next cast member is equally popular, being the lead protagonist in many productions, the Scale 2 Abyss Actor Leading Lady. When she's upstage, she has 2 effects she can utilize during the battle phase after you take battle damage. She can either use her magic to lower the attack of the monster that dealt it equal to the damage you took, or you can return an actor in your extra deck to your hand if it has equal or fewer attack points to the damage you took. When downstage, she can debuff a monster your opponent controls when you take battle damage. And if she's destroyed while downstage, you can set a script directly from your deck. Keep her at 3. Now we move on to the high-ranking members of the troupe, the true stars of every show. We'll start things off by meeting the beautiful diva of the troupe with the voice of a fallen angel, the Scale 0 Abyss Actor Mellow Madonna. When she's upstage, you can pay 1,000 life points to have her use her beautiful singing voice to add an actor from the deck to your hand, but you won't be able to special summon the non-pendulum monsters from the extra deck if you do. She also has 3 downstage effects. One that boosts her attack for every script in the graveyard, one that lets her special summon herself on stage from the hand if a non-link actor is destroyed by battle, another that lets you special summon a low to mid-ranking actor from the deck, but it has to return to the hand during the end phase. After her, we have the Master Actor, the star of every show, and the Archetype's Deck Master, the Scale 3 Abyss Actor Superstar. When he's upstage, he can send an actor backstage to recover a script from the graveyard. When he appears downstage, your opponent isn't allowed to ruin his grand entrance with any spells or trap cards. He can also set a script directly from the deck, but it goes to the graveyard if you don't use it once the turn ends. Keep him at 3. The final onstage actor is the designated villain in most of his performances, and somewhat resembles a genie for whatever reason, the Scale 1 Abyss Actor Evil Heel. When upstage, he can use his magic to ruthlessly sacrifice another actor on stage, and weaken an opponent's monster's attack points by the same amount as the actor's original attack points. Thankfully, his downstage effect is a little less sinister. He does the same thing without sacrificing anyone, making it several times more effective since, like Wild Hope and Funky Comedian, the effect is greater when he shares the stage with other actors. Also, when he destroys a monster by battle, he can restore and set a script from the graveyard. Now that we're done with the on-stage talent, it's time to get acquainted with the crew that works behind the scenes to make the magic happen. The highest ranking member of the troupe we'll meet is the little man in charge who makes everything on stage happen, Abyss Actor Hyper Director. His effect lets him call an actor from upstage to downstage while allowing another actor in the deck to take their place. Given his position, keeping him at 3 is a must. Next to him is the equally, if not more important member of the crew in charge of keeping everything running smoothly, Abyss Actor Super Producer, who actually resembles Silvio a bit. His effect actually has 2 different results you can choose from. By destroying a face-up card you control, you can either build a theater, or call an actor from the deck to take their position upstage. As the head honcho, you should keep him at 3. Now that you've met the cast and crew, I'll give you a secret look at the magical items they keep backstage, including the cursed books and props that you probably shouldn't be handling without a wizard present. For those wondering why I refer to the objects I'm about to go over as cursed, it's because they share a fun little gimmick. Destroying them while they're set can lead to dangerous and/or humorous consequences, if there's a face-up actor in the extra deck. Which I don't feel like repeating, so keep that in mind. To start, we have the Abyss Script Opening Ceremony. As a script the actors use to leave a lasting impression on the audience at the start of the show, its effect reflects that by boosting your life points by 500 for every Abyss actor on stage. And if it's destroyed, you can draw cards until you have 5 in your hand. Keep it at 3. The following script is based on the super popular play Romeo and Juliet, Abyss Script Romantic Terror, starring the 2 best actors in the troupe. Its effect lets you return a non-link actor on stage to the hand so a different actor backstage can take their place, in defense mode. And if it's destroyed, you can set any number of other scripts from the deck. Keep it at 3. Another script, which is an apparent reference to Beauty and the Beast, or not, is Abyss Script Dramatic Story. It allows you to target an actor downstage, special summon one from the deck, and either place your initial target upstage or destroy it, which actually brings to mind a dance sequence. When it's destroyed, it can send 2 cards on the field back to the hand. Next, we have a script for the play that the children all enjoy, Abyss Script Fire Dragon's Lair. Its effect grants the ability to banish 3 cards from your opponent's extra deck to one of your actors after they destroy a monster by battle, but your opponent gets to choose which ones are banished, unfortunately. But if it's destroyed, then you get to choose a monster in their extra deck to banish. Abyss Script Fantasy Magic is similar. It grants an actor the ability to return your opponent's monsters to the hand if they don't destroy them after battle. And if it's destroyed, you can target and send one of your opponent's monsters back to the top of the deck. Now we get to my favorite script, Abyss Script Rise of the Abyss King. Its effect lets you target and destroy cards on the field, less than or equal to the number of actors you have on stage. Additionally, if one of those actors is level 7 or higher, your opponent can't activate anything in response to it. And if it's destroyed, you can add 2 different actors and/or scripts from the deck to the hand. The final script is none other than Abyss Script Abyss-tainment. A script that works as a doorway to the abyss. It allows you to sacrifice one of your actors to target and set a script in the graveyard onto your field, which you can do twice per turn. If it's destroyed, it can immediately summon any number of actors from the abyss onto the field. Keep it at 3. And lastly, there's the rarely seen chariot piece, Abyss Prop Wild Wagon. Prevents each of your actors from being destroyed by battle once per turn. You can also target one of your actors and make them untargetable by card effects for the rest of a turn. And if it's destroyed while set, you can immediately clear your opponent's field and return their cards to the hand. There's also a secret hidden room that the troupe rarely uses anymore, seen here in Abyss Actors Backstage. Its effect allows you to send 2 actors from the deck to the extra deck face up. With the scripts and props now out of the way, there's still 2 things I need to show you. Before opening night, the crew and staff have a lot to do before they're ready to captivate their audience. One such thing is the very important dress rehearsal. This essential spell lets you add an actor and script to your hand from the deck, but only at the very beginning of your first main phase, though that's no surprise. And once the performance is done, all that's left is for the actors to take a bow during the curtain call. When a script or its effect is activated, you can return the actors backstage to the hand, up to the number of scripts in your graveyard. Then you can special summon any number of them from your hand. But you won't be able to summon any of your links afterwards, so be careful. Now that the card list is over and done with, we can finally get to the fun part, the strategy guide. In the anime, Silvio is one of the many duelists who consider themselves dual-tainers, which means that not only is his deck performance-based, but his dueling style revolves around strategies that are hard to predict or counter if you're not prepared for them. The Abyss Actor's primary playstyle revolves around swarming the field by pendulum summoning, while also making use of the many different pendulum effects the deck offers. Additionally, since every monster in the main deck is a pendulum monster, knowing which pendulum skill and effect combinations work best for any given situation is the most essential skill you'll need if you want to master the deck. Which is easier said than done, given that you also have to take into account how many different pendulum effect combos pair into the various monster and spell effects. Since that's likely a very high number I don't feel like getting into right now, I'll start with the simpler combos and do my best to explain the more complex ones as we get more familiar with the archetype's complexities. Now ideally, you want to end your first turn with Super Producer, Madonna in the Pendulum scale with a scale 8 or 9 monster in the adjacent scale, 2 or 3 Pendulum summon monsters, and at least 1 set Abyss script. That sounds like a lot, but believe me, it's doable. The best way to do this is to start the turn using Dress Rehearsal to add the monster and script you need. If you don't already have him in your hand, Curtain Raiser is a good choice since his Pendulum effect allows you to save your normal summon for later. Suppose you have another Pendulum monster in your hand. You can place it on the scale, link summon Hyper Director, and use his effect to summon your Pendulum scale monster and replace it with Mellow Madonna. Link summon Super Producer, use Madonna's Pendulum effect to add a scale 8 or 9 actor to your hand, place it on the scale, and then Pendulum summon from both the hand and extra deck. Then, finally, you can set the script you added earlier if you think it'll help you on your next turn. That's the way I usually do it, but there are several ways to do this combo on its own. For the sake of time, I'll only go over the most efficient variations. For example, if your opponent negates Hyper Director when you activate his effect, you can normal summon an actor and use it and Hyper Director to link summon Super Producer. Then you can use Super Producer's effect to destroy the monster in your Pendulum scale to replace it with Madonna. If Madonna is already on the scale, You can use her effect like usual to add another actor to your hand and then place it on the scale for producers to destroy. If you place and then destroy Wild Hope, you can even get an extra actor in your hand. I recommend Superstar. After replacing Wild Hope with a scale 8 or 9 actor, you can then proceed to Pendulum Summon. Going deeper still, regarding Mellow Madonna's Pendulum effect, the monsters you'll want to add during your first turn are Dramatist or Twinkle Little Star. Dramatist is usually my first choice since I prefer not to Pendulum Summon the only level 8 monster in the deck unless I have to, and her Pendulum and Monster effect can come in handy if you're going second. Twinkle Little Star can't do much on the first turn, but if you're going second and manage to summon one of your strongest actors, her Pendulum effect will definitely come in handy, which I'll get into later. Another actor you can use Madonna's effect to search for is Wild Hope. At first glance, the two aren't a good combination because of their low scale values, but thanks to Wild Hope's own Pendulum effect, that's not an issue. And that's my cue to move on to the next act, since discussing these combos any further will require me to bring the scripts into the mix. So I'll shelve this for now and discuss the different Pendulum combos, going over both the scales and the Pendulum effects. As a Pendulum-focused deck, keeping the margin between your two Pendulum scales as broad as possible is essential. Thankfully, the scales are usually balanced between the different monsters. Hyper Director and Super Producer make them a lot easier to manage if you're in a pinch, too. So for this part, I'll only mention the monster effects when I need to, and come back to the combo if it goes too far beyond the Pendulum. Starting with Mellow Madonna again, the best cards to pair her with on the scale are the scale 8s and 9, because they allow you to summon as many monsters as possible, those being levels 1 through 7 or 8, the latter of which covers the entire archetype. And her effect to search an actor means that you can get the strongest ones out faster. Pairing her with Wild Hope would decrease that margin by 2, but that's not really an issue since the most useful monsters are level 3 or higher anyway. Unfortunately, aside from being suitable for Pendulum summoning, Madonna doesn't have much use if you already have exactly what you need. So it's best to keep her on the scale for the first few turns before swapping her out. With the scale 1 Evil Heal on the scale, your priority should be attempting to deal as much damage as possible to your opponent. Scale 8 Funky Comedian can assist by increasing the attack points of one of your monsters. However, both effects require sacrifices, so I don't recommend using this combo unless you've already Pendulum summoned a whole field. For this particular combo, which I've dubbed the Comedic Duo, you need to summon another Funky Comedian alongside the other Abyss actors to take advantage of its monster effect that boosts attack points. You can then use this effect to grant its boosted attack points to your strongest monster before using the other Comedian's Pendulum effect to tribute one of your weaker monsters, not the Comedian, to grant the strongest one another boost. You can then use Evil Heal's Pendulum effect to tribute a different actor to debuff your opponent's monsters before starting your battle phase. There's actually more that this combo can do, but I'll discuss it later. Leading Lady and Sassy Rookie are the best battle phase pendulums to have during your opponent's turn. But since they have the same scale value, you have to be careful about when they're on the scale together. Ideally, you'll want to have one on the scale before your opponent's battle phase starts, and use Super Producer's effect to place the other on the pendulum scale before your opponent enters the battle phase. This way, you can not only use Leading Lady's effect to debuff your opponent's monsters, but also use Rookie's effect to protect the monster you want to keep on the field. Speaking of battle, Twinkle Little Star has a super effective battle combo she can use on your turn, but I won't spoil it just yet. Now, I already mentioned the starting combo with Curtain Raiser's Pendulum effect, but there's another Pendulum effect that can enhance it if you're going second. That being the Pendulum effect of Extras. If you're the one going second, you can special summon Curtain Raiser like usual, but also summon Extras since your opponent will likely have a monster on their field. From there, you can do the earlier mentioned combo and use Extra's monster effect to place the Abyss actor you need in the Pendulum scale. If Madonna's on the scale, you can also use her Pendulum effect to add Trendy Understudy, and then use his Pendulum effect after Pendulum summoning to bring back Extras so you can either normal summon them or save them for later, depending on your situation. I mean, you could just Pendulum summon him along with the rest, but it never hurts to have extras in the hand since you'll likely need a monster in hand for your next turn if things go south. Moving on to the next act, we'll be digging a bit deeper by going over how the different monster effects work in tandem with not only the pendulums to boost the performance, but the scripts as well. Surprisingly, for a deck with such an emphasis on teamwork, most of the actors' effects when downstage only really benefit themselves, which I guess makes sense since it's all part of the show. But thankfully, their numerous scripts can fully exploit those individual effects to yield a surprising number of outcomes. Unfortunately, we'll be starting this act by having a little flashback scene and returning to the starting combo with Curtain Raiser, but with a twist. Curtain Raiser special summoning itself is a mainstay at this point, but some scripts can mix things up if you think the usual strategy won't work, or you want to throw your opponent off by shaking things up. Let's say you start with Curtain Raiser, Wild Hope, and Dramatic Story. There's a lot you can do with those 3 cards alone, and even more depending on what else you have in your hand. If you start the combo normally, you can special summon Curtain Raiser, place Wild Hope in the Pendulum scale, link Director, use him to summon Wild Hope and replace him with another Pendulum, and so forth. But the problem with this combo is that your opponent can negate Director and stop you dead in your tracks. However, if you start with at least one more actor in your hand, preferably a strong one, and place it on the scale instead of Wild Hope, you can bait out the negation and continue your play like normal. To do this, you have to save your normal summon for last. By attempting to use Hyper Director's effect to special summon the actor who's upstage, your opponent is likely to negate the effect impulsively. But if you normal summon Wild Hope afterwards, you have options. You can activate Dramatic Story to special summon whichever Abyss actor you need for your strategy. I personally recommend Superstar, and then move Wild Hope upstage and use his Pendulum effect to increase the scale of the other upstage actor. From there, you can use Superstar to set the script that you want, like one you can immediately activate this turn, and then use him and Director to link summon Producer. With him on the field and your scale set, you can Pendulum summon Superstar and Curtain Raiser from backstage. You can then use Superstar's effect again to set another script, or if you think you'll need it, Producer's effect to place your field spell. If you destroy Wild Hope using that effect, you can activate his immediately afterwards to add a card you need to your hand. Another route you can take involves using Producer's effect to destroy Wild Hope immediately after altering the opposite actor's scale rating, and replace him with another actor so that you can not only make a better scale for Pendulum summoning for the turn, but also use Wild Hope's monster effect to add the card you need to your hand and set up your plays for your next turn. If you destroy and replace him with Mellow Madonna, for example, you can use both of their effects to add whichever actors you need for Pendulum summoning. This will allow you to summon more monsters, and depending on which other actor is upstage with her, set up even more combos. Speaking of the field spell, Fantastic Theater will play a pivotal role in destructing your opponent since the archetype has so few cards that you can activate on your opponent's turn, at least on your own, while also advancing your plays. Since the scripts the actors rely on need to be destroyed by the opponent for their best effects to activate, I'll go over the different ways to use them to achieve the best results. One of my favorite methods is using Producer to place Theater on the opponent's turn when they intend to use their most crucial monster effect. A quick note though, if you want to play this deck in the TCG and the judge is incompetent, I mean not as well versed in non-meta decks as they should be, the opponent's monster effect is automatically changed as soon as you place the field spell, so long as the condition of there being Pendulum Summon Abyss actors on your field is met. And you can activate the effects of the destroyed scripts if there are no face-up actors in the extra deck at the time, but only if one is destroyed just before or at the same time as the scripts themselves. With that out of the way, the 3 scripts you'll want to have destroyed simultaneously, if you want to imagine your opponent realizing just how much they screwed themselves over, are Opening Ceremony, Romantic Terror, and Abyss-tainment, as they're part of the 5-5-5 combo. Yeah, I'll stop now. With this, you can restore your hand, set more scripts, and summon as many Abyss actors as possible in quick succession. Getting back on task, I'll start with the monsters whose effects directly involve the scripts. those being Comic Relief with his Destruction effect, Leading Lady who can set a card, Dramatist who can set, destroy, and reshuffle, Curtain Raiser who can dispose of a card, Mellow Madonna who benefits from their effects, Superstar who can set and restore them, and Evil Heel who can also set and restore. Comic Relief and Liberty Dramatis effect to destroy the scripts are definitely handy, but you need to be careful about when they're activated. Comic Relief activates automatically, so the only thing I can say about that is that if he survives until your opponent's standby phase, make sure that Fantastic Theater is on the field when he switches sides. Because while his destruction effect won't be changed, it'll still waste the one-time disruption that Theater provides. Liberty Dramatis is the same, but the risk is lessened by the fact that she only special summons herself during the battle phase, when Theater has likely already been used. She also has a good battle combo that I'll get into later. Leading Lady is pretty straightforward since she needs to be destroyed by your opponent to set a card. But being able to set a card from the deck never hurts, especially if your opponent chooses to destroy it for any number of misguided reasons. Curtain Raiser's effect is beneficial when combined with Superstar, Evil Heel, or Abyss-tainment, since all three deal with getting scripts out of the graveyard. It's especially handy with Abyss-tainment since you can use both of them to spam Rise of the Abyss King, since that particular spell isn't once per turn. Speaking of Superstar and Evil Heel, they're the last pieces of a critical battle combo that can devastate your opponent if appropriately performed. However, it comes with the downside of possibly being unable to land the finishing blow to your opponent. There are also several variations, some of which are compatible with the earlier discussed combos, so we'll go over those now. Now that we've reached the final conflict of the show, it's time to sit back as the actors bring things to a close with their impressive battle prowess. As I've said earlier, these guys' monster effects are mostly tailored to benefit themselves rather than the others. But when it comes to battle, that becomes a boon. There's also one Abyss script that's perfect for battle, but I'll try to save it until the end. The first battle combo is one I previously covered, the Comedic Duo, which uses both of Funky Comedian's attack boosting effects. But this time, I'll be including the scripts that can be used to enhance your monsters further, as well as the different ways this combo can play out. In addition to having one Funky Comedian upstage, you need another actor with a low scale value upstage to have the perfect pendulum scale. Mellow Madonna is a good choice because she can provide you with an extra monster for your pendulum summon. If Super Producer is already on the field, you can destroy and replace her with Evil Heel before pendulum summoning her alongside actors like Wild Hope, Superstar, Funky Comedian, and Leading Lady. If you have multiple copies of Superstar you can summon, do so, as both can set the scripts you'll need. As I have previously mentioned, you can use Funky Comedian's monster effect to boost his individual attack points, and then use his second monster effect to boost one of your Superstars, or just the one if you didn't have a second one to summon. If the other Evil Heel is backstage, you can use Romantic Terror to tribute an actor and bring them on stage, where he can then activate his monster effect to debuff one of your opponent's monsters. You can then use the upstage Evil Heel's effect to tribute his twin and debuff another one of your opponent's monsters by his 3000 attack points. Then you can use the upstage Funky Comedian's effect to tribute another actor on your field in order to boost Superstar even more. Then, once you enter the battle phase, you can use your enhanced Superstar to attack your opponent's weakest monster, deal a lot of damage, and use Leading Lady to debuff one of your opponent's monsters further if they have more than two, before continuing the battle phase and attacking with every monster you have left. Twinkle Little Star has several combos that she's essential to, one of which involves her, Leading Lady, and Fantasy Magic. You'll probably use a different variation of this combo in tandem with another, but knowing the basics doesn't hurt. With Twinkle Little Star and Leading Lady downstage, you can have the Child Star read Fantasy Magic and enter your battle phase. Since she's immune to being destroyed during your battle phase, she can attack one of your opponent's monsters and have you take battle damage. And Leading Lady can use her effect to debuff another one of your opponent's monsters. And thanks to Fantasy Magic, the monster she attacks will be poofed back to the hand since it wasn't destroyed. And if the remaining monsters your opponent controls are weaker than yours, you can use the rest of your monsters to clear the field as much as possible. but since you'll be taking a lot of damage from this combo, I recommend using Opening Ceremony to mitigate it, if only slightly. The next combo I'll go over is my personal favorite, and if done perfectly, it has the potential to cripple your opponent's deck completely. So I think I'll call it the Dragon Dungeon Raid, because it makes use of one of those broken scripts in the deck, Fire Dragon's Lair. The best way to perform this combo is have Twinkle Little Star on the Pendulum scale, so you can Pendulum Summon Evil Heal, who's the key to making this strategy work. And like previous strategies, you'll want Leading Lady and Funky Comedian alongside Evil Heal. Superstar is also good since he can set Fire Dragon's Lair, and Super Producer's ability to manipulate the pendulum scale can also come in handy since it'll allow you to swap your scales out quickly, which, believe me, you will need to do. If you start the turn with Super Producer on the field, you won't have to worry about Madonna's effect locking you out of the extra deck. Alright, now that we have this ideal setup for this combo, I'll go over everything carefully step by step. By having Super Producer in the extra monster zone, Mellow Madonna and Twinkle Little Star on the pendulum scale, you'll need to have Leading Lady, Superstar, Funky Comedian, Evil Heal, and any other actor ready to be summoned. Once they're all summoned, you can get to work using Evil Heal's debuff and Comedian's buff before targeting Evil Heal with Twinkle Little Star's pendulum effect, giving him 3 attacks on monsters, but also restricting the other actors. You can then use Superstar to set Fire Dragon's Lair, or a different script if you already have one ready, whichever one it is depending on your situation, but Rise of the Abyss King is a good way to get rid of continuous spells and traps your opponent controls. If you use Super Producer to destroy Twinkle Little Star, you can replace her with either Liberty Dramatist or another Funky Comedian, the latter to invoke the Comedic Duo to further strengthen Evil Heal, and the former for her special summoning effect during the battle phase. You know, just so long as you have a card in your hand to spare. When everything is ready, you should have a powerful Evil Heal with 3 attacks and a terrifying banishing effect ready to cause havoc on your opponent's deck. And if Liberty Dramatist is upstage, you can summon her to your opponent's field in attack mode to give an easier attack target for Evil Heal. You can then use Evil Heal to attack and destroy her first, which will activate Fire Dragon Lair's effect to banish 3 of your opponent's extra deck monsters, significantly deal damage to your opponent, weaken another of your opponent's monsters, shuffle a script back into the deck, and then set another script in the graveyard onto the field. And that's all the important combos for the deck that I can go over before my brain shuts down, so I'll hurry and get started on the final act, the deck's final stats. As with all my previous videos, I'll be assigning scores to what I believe to be the most essential stats for any deck: its overall power, its adaptability, and its recovery potential. And while this is one of my favorite decks, I'll try to be as unbiased as possible. Starting with its power rating, I'm giving them a perfect 5 scripts out of 5. Because the most essential monster's strength power-wise are average to high, they started with 4. But because they have several ways to increase their attack strength while also decreasing their opponents, I felt the extra script was well earned. For adaptability, I'm giving them 4 scripts out of 5. I wanted it to be higher, believe me, but while they do have a wide assortment of effects that can turn almost any situation around, their need for the opponent to trigger them can be troublesome. There's also the fact that a lot of their strategies require a lot of preparation to pull off, which can also slow you down if you're not careful. Finally, for their recovery rating, I'm giving them 5 scripts out of 5. As a Pendulum deck, this rating was already going to be high, but I think it's worth mentioning that it's surprisingly easy to rebuild your field as long as you have at least 2 monsters in your hand, potential negates notwithstanding. And the deck's ability to recover both spells and monsters makes recovery much easier. And that's all for the Abyss Actor deck build and strategy guide. Let's give these actors a quick round of applause for their incredible skill and showmanship. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! And gaming content. And if you think there's a combo you found that I didn't mention, don't hesitate to put it in the comments. Oh, and be sure to vote in the next strategy guide poll. Though, judging by how it looks now, Flower Carvings will be the next deck that I discuss, so look forward to it. See you all later. I have a cast party to get to.